Julle laat 'n mens alleen voel deur voor te staan so sonder 'n gehoor om my. Deur sit die mense daar agter. Groot plesier om by julle te wees vanmôre.
On the 2nd of April 2020, Louis Welsenach took his last breath. He was the very first person in Gauteng to succumb to COVID-19. It all started in March of the same year.
My dad was feeling a little bit tired and wanted to go and have a bit of a break at the sea, and he took a flight to George. And nobody really spoke about COVID. There was one case in Hilton and Natal. It was something that was happening in China. It wasn't a big deal at all. Got on the plane, and 2 days later, he came back and went to bed.
Louis wasn't feeling well.
I said to him, what happened? And he said, no, there was somebody coughing on the plane, but he doesn't want to presume that it was COVID because he doesn't believe in COVID. He didn't think it was a thing. He just said he felt that he picked up either bronchitis or pneumonia, and he'll be fine. He's going to be in bed. He's going to look after himself, and everything's going to be fine. I mustn't worry. A week went past, and the coughing just continued, and I just kept on taking him his rooibos tea, and then eventually his appetite he just lost it completely, and I started begging him. I said, listen, please, can we just test for this thing?
In no time, the 79-year-old moved from being a vibrant member of a children's NGO to being gravely ill. A fever and then a bad stomach. He was eventually admitted to a hospital in the north of Johannesburg. This is where he discovered he was COVID positive.
They took everything away, and they put him in a room that was, that didn't have a telephone in it. So for 4 days, the last 4 days that he lived, I had no communication with him.
A few days after Louis was admitted, his daughter received the phone call she'd been dreading. He had lost the battle to COVID-19.
I phoned the hospital, the superintendent, everybody, and I phoned the funeral parlor, and nobody knew what to do. There was no ways that I could see his body.
And when the day of his burial arrived, Louis' daughter couldn't attend due to strict COVID-19 regulations. An ad agency owner, a published author, a man who was passionate about helping children to realize their full potential couldn't receive the special and dignified send-off he deserved.
I'm sitting here with my son and my husband, and we lit a candle, and that was all I could do for him.
At the time of Louis' death in April 2020, COVID-19 was still somewhat of a mystery. The virus proved ruthless, particularly among senior citizens and people living with comorbidities. But as more people tested positive and deaths started being recorded in large numbers, information gradually began to emerge. The National Coronavirus Command Council felt lockdown was a necessary tool to flatten the curve.
Dominant scientific view was that you needed to limit interaction amongst people because the virus spread through interaction. So once you limit that, then you are able to limit the extent of that expansion, transmission amongst people. So it made sense, and with diseases, we are in the 21st century. I think we have accepted that science is the best way to solve medical issues.
But not everyone agreed.
We felt that it would have been far more appropriate for the government to defer to South Africans' own determination about their health and safety, to leave it to facilities, employers to implement their own health and safety measures, as many organizations in fact did before the lockdown was announced. So we were quite concerned about the impact that lockdown would have on the economy. We saw it almost immediately when the regulations that have to do with essential and non-essential services and work were announced. We almost immediately knew that those people deemed to be engaged in non-essential activity would be in a lot of economic trouble, and that has proven true.
We were in uncharted waters. And government, it was quite a cruel dilemma. In that government has to, yes, think of livelihoods, because people have to work, people have to earn an income to get food for their lives to continue. But at the same time, government also has the responsibility to make sure that people don't die from a disease. So that was a tricky situation to be in.
But it was the banning of alcohol and cigarettes that triggered anger.
For each day tobacco was banned, the government lost about 35 million rand in excise taxes on tobacco products. And 35 million rand was about enough for 1.5 community clinics, for instance. So if you just extrapolate that over the whole period of lockdown and the many weeks, months perhaps, that tobacco and alcohol were banned, the government lost out in billions in taxes.
Coming up after the break, an attempt to resuscitate South Africa's economy.